chihuahuas. 안녕하세요, 안녕하세요. It's Natalia, and with it being the start of the new year, I am positive that so many of you have either added learning Korean to your list of New Year's resolutions or written something along the lines of, I am going to get better at Korean this year to your list of New Year's resolutions. With that in mind, I thought, hey, Natalia, you used to be a channel that was exclusively about learning Korean, so why don't you help the people out by sharing, embarrassing yourself and sharing the mistakes that you made as an intermediate learner so that other people don't make these mistakes. Well, I think these things aren't like huge, ginormous, colossal mistakes per se. Looking back, I think if I had done things differently, specifically these things differently, then I would have advanced in Korean more quickly. So if you don't know me, hi, my name is Natalia. You probably already gathered that, but I have been learning Korean for 7 years now. Like 2023 is my 8th year learning Korean. I currently live in Seoul, South Korea, and I make content about what it's like to live here. Let's go ahead and jump into Natalia's mistakes. The first mistake I want to talk about is focusing more on listening and reading rather than speaking and writing. And, okay, before you come for me, depending on who you are and what your language goals are, this might not be considered a mistake at all. Or you might think this is a no-duh mistake. Natalia, how did you even make that mistake? Okay, listen, hear me out. I think when you are self-studying a language, it's a lot easier to make this mistake without even realizing that you're making it. As someone who was self-studying Korean for multiple years, I naturally found myself skipping the speaking and the writing exercises in my textbooks because not only was it difficult for me to figure out how I was supposed to do these exercises or just to do them alone, it was extremely difficult to get any feedback or any corrections on them to find out if I was doing it correctly because most textbooks, or at least the majority of the textbooks that I was working with at the time, did not include any type of answer keys for their speaking and writing exercises. And well, yes, I was talking to native speakers on language exchange apps. Well, yes, I was talking to myself in Korean. Well, yes, I was having imaginary arguments with BTS. Don't ask questions. For my speaking skills, that wasn't enough. And even if I did one of the writing exercises and turned to one of my Korean friends and asked them to check it for me, or if I went to a language exchange app and asked the users there to give me corrections, it just wasn't enough. I kind of just naturally started doing more and more listening and reading exercises, as well as just buying, reading and listening specific textbooks and workbooks because these skills were something that I could improve alone. I didn't need other people to give me feedback or give me corrections. All I had to do was consult the answer key in the back of the textbook and know if I was improving, if I was understanding as much Korean as I thought I was. And I had the inkling that I think most self-studiers get at some point or another. You know, that inkling where you're like, I think my listening skills are behind. I think my writing skills aren't as good as my reading skills. I just didn't realize how much lower they were in comparison to my, reading and listening skills until I started taking italki classes in January of 2020. I remember the textbook that we were using at the time was a level 4 or intermediate 2 textbook. And I remember thinking, these listening exercises and these reading exercises are so easy. They are completely below my level, up until I had to start talking about the content in the listening and reading exercises, until I had to start writing little paragraphs about the content that I had heard or read. And then I quickly realized it's not good. And I'm not trying to say that your speaking skills or your writing skills are going to be bad or going to be much lower than your reading and listening skills. I'm simply sharing that mine were because of the way I studied. So please do not study the way I studied. When it came to correcting this mistake that I made, I'm sure most of you or some of you already know or at least guessed, I started taking weekly classes with an italki teacher. I remember telling the teacher that I wanted to focus on my writing skills in preparation for the topic or the test of proficiency in Korean, so that's what we did. Speaking of italki, they are the sponsor of today's video, so if you guys have been following my journey learning Korean, you already know how much I love italki and how much I love my italki teachers. But if you're new here, please allow me the opportunity to introduce you to my favorite resource for learning Korean. Italki is an online language learning platform that connects students and teachers for one-on-one personalized language learning lessons. Not only are there over 150 languages that italki can help you learn, but they have a variety of teachers, each with different levels of experience and teaching styles. And you can filter through all of those teachers by your desired lesson category. So if you want to focus on improving your Korean pronunciation, italki can show you which teachers can help you do that. If you want to focus on preparing for the topic exam, or if you want to focus on preparing for a job interview, italki can show you which teachers have lessons that can help you do so. In other words, there are plenty of teachers on italki who can help you achieve your language learning goals and stay within budget. In fact, you can book a lesson with a native teacher on italki for as low as $5 with no subscription and no commitment. Now, if you guys remember, I have taken a variety of different classes on italki. I've taken topic prep classes, essay writing classes, free talk classes, general classes. Like, I have almost hit 200 lessons on italki. So I know what I'm talking about when I tell you that there's such a great resource for learning Korean. The fact that my lessons on italki are so personalized to me, the fact that I can change the focus of my lessons or change the way that my teachers and I are studying together, the teachers that already know my strengths and weaknesses because they've been teaching me, has been so beneficial in helping me develop my Korean in different areas. Italki is the resource that got me from low intermediate to low advanced, so I highly encourage you guys to check them out if you are wanting to watch K-dramas without subtitles, if you are wanting to have a meaningful conversation in Korean. Not to mention that when you study with a native teacher on italki, you have a direct link to Korea. Like, I can't even emphasize how much my italki teachers helped me prepare for my move here to South Korea, not only before my move, but also after. Anyway, I highly encourage you guys to check out italki if you're wanting to advance your Korean skills or any other language skills more quickly in 2023. If you guys use my promo code Natalia2023, you'll get an additional $5 italki credit towards your first class. So this offer is only available to the first 50 users that use the promo code. So if you are wanting to improve your language skills and you've ever considered or are now considering trying out italki, I encourage you to move quickly. You guys should also know that this offer expires on January 31st, so get moving. I'll leave all the links for italki as well as the promo code in the description box, so check it out. And let's get back to Natalia's mistakes. Moving on to the next mistake that I really do not want you guys to make is waiting too long to use native material as a study resource. Back when I was an intermediate learner, the main reasons I didn't want to use documentaries, news broadcasts, articles, variety shows, books, podcasts, etc. was because, one, I was so afraid that they would be too hard for me to the point that I would feel extremely defeated when I tried to use them and then realized I couldn't. Two, it can be extremely difficult to find transcripts for native audio content. Three, there are no comprehension questions for native content because they are not a textbook. They are not meant to be used as a study resource. And number four, it can be extremely time consuming to find native content that is on your level when you are an intermediate learner. With everything I just said, I might have accidentally just persuaded you to also not want to learn with native content. If that's the case, please allow me the opportunity to try and convince you that you should study with native content. Once I'd been using italki for about a year or so, I made the decision to get an additional teacher to supplement my studies. So in other words, I had my main teacher who was helping me learn everything under the sun, and then I had my supplementary teacher who was solely to help me with my speaking and discussion skills. And if you're wondering, Natalia, why did you go get another teacher instead of just taking more classes with your first teacher or your main teacher? Good question. So when I was looking at my options, I found this teacher who had taught at Korea University's Korean Language Center while in their teacher training program. And at that time, I already knew that I wanted to apply for Korea University's Korean Language Center. So in my mind, I thought, oh my gosh, this teacher is perfect. She can show me exactly where my speaking abilities need to be to test into the advanced courses at KU's Language Center. Anyway, after talking with this new teacher during my first lesson, she suggested that we study with native content instead of studying with any textbook or any other resource, because she said the students in the advanced courses at KU's Language Center use native content to advance their speaking skills. As we studied with native content together, I found that while yes, it was extremely difficult, especially in the beginning, it got so much easier. And I know that kind of sounds like a no duh, but when I was an intermediate learner, I was so scared of native content. Like I didn't want to touch it because I was afraid that if I tried to use it as a resource and then wasn't able to understand, that I was going to feel unmotivated and feel kind of, I don't want to say ashamed of my level, but kind of, I guess, insecure. I hate saying that on camera, but like basically I was scared of how it would make me perceive my own level of Korean. But with my italki teacher there to guide me through the words, to guide me through the content and the grammar expressions that I didn't know, it got so much easier. Like my understanding of Korean got better, my speaking got better, like my sentences got longer because I was being exposed to the way that Korean people express ideas, how they express their opinions on different topics. Unlike when I was using intermediate resources, right? Resources that are meant for non-native speakers, resources that are kind of watered down to match the learner's level. These resources were like, nah, these are meant for Korean people. We're gonna speak the way we normally would speak. Both types of resources have their pros and cons, but for what I was wanting to go into, right, the advanced levels at this language school, it helped me a lot, and I really wish I had started using it sooner. Going on to mistake number 3, we have not learning enough topic-related vocabulary. And when I say topic, I don't mean the test of proficiency in Korean, I mean category. Yeah, and I know some of you guys are probably like, Natalia, what the heck are you talking about? You always studied with textbooks, and textbooks teach words or vocabulary in groups related to topics. Yes, you are correct. However, so the amount of vocabulary or topic-related vocabulary that is presented in most textbooks, it's not enough to actually have a meaningful conversation on that topic. And I learned this the hard way. And when I say the hard way, I mean with my italki teachers. So while working with both my primary and supplementary teachers, I realized it was extremely difficult for me to say what I wanted to say. And to be honest, it doesn't feel good when you have covered a chapter in a textbook that is on a specific topic. You think you can talk about it because you've completed the chapter. You go in excited to have that conversation and then realize you do not know enough words to say what you want to say or to say something meaningful. When you study with a textbook, right, and if you just study the vocabulary presented in the textbook, or any like official language learning resource, I would say, you learn vocabulary on a range of topics. And while that in itself is not a bad thing, you come to realize when trying to have a conversation that you know a lot of words, but you don't know enough words on anything specific to actually get you anywhere. It wasn't until I started taking more and more classes with my supplementary italki teacher, the one that I was working through native content with, that I actually started to gain more and more vocabulary related to topics that I wanted to talk about or topics that my teacher knew that I was going to have to be able to talk about to test into the level 5 course that I was wanting to test into upon arriving at KU. Felt like I was so much more fluent because now I was able to have lengthy, meaningful conversations. It made me realize that when I struggle to have a conversation, it's not because I'm not advanced in Korean. It's not because I suck at Korean. It's not because of anything like that. It's simply because I don't know the vocabulary that I need for this particular conversation. And now, as an advanced speaker of Korean, this is how I go about learning vocabulary. I try to learn it according to topics. So for example, right now I am reading a book called Criminal Profiling in Korea. That is the English title, but the book itself is written in Korean. So I'm extremely interested in true crime as well as law in Korea. So I've gotten this book, one, because I want to hear what they have to say, but also because it will help me learn so many words related to criminal profiling and law and just criminal law in general. That's it for the mistakes that I made as an intermediate learner of Korean. And if you happen to be a beginner, I have something for you. So I actually made a beginner version of this video a while back. You can check it out here. I hope it is helpful to those of you that are a beginner. And guys, I highly encourage you to check out italki if you have never used it before. It did wonders, or it is doing wonders, because I literally have a class tomorrow. italki's done wonders for my Korean fluency, and I know it can do the same thing for you, so please check it out. You can use my promo code Natalia 2023 to get an additional $5 italki credit for your first lesson. Again, this offer is only good for the first 50 people that use it, and it will expire on January 31st. So the new year is always a great time to start learning a new language. I hope you pick Korean or refocus on the language that you've been learning. Thank you to italki for sponsoring today's video, and I will see you guys in the next video. So 다음에 봐요, guys. I can't even speak Korean anymore. Bye. My God.